Hey guys, welcome back to Jared at 3Cs. Today we're going to go over my dad's 2025 Beta 430 RRX Pro. We literally pushed this bike out of the showroom and he's put like 425 miles on it. So just over 20 hours, so he's averaging like 21 miles an hour. So the whole point of this video is just to kind of show you what a Beta would look like after 1 year of ownership. Now I will say 20 hours in 1 year is pretty low. I know I have a lot of customers that are like, oh, like 100 hours is normal. You're right, but we do work 6 days a week at the shop. So this side of the bike made out pretty good. I do see where his boots grabbed that decal and it's pulling it off. So I'm just gonna take a razor blade, cut straight down and just pull that off. So otherwise it'll just kind of keep peeling the decal. That tire's pretty roasted. Now keep in mind there's not a lot of tread on these to begin with, but it's chunked up pretty good. So it's definitely time. We're gonna put some Dunlops on this thing front and rear. What I am gonna do, and the counter, we custom make this at the shop and we sell a lot of these. These are a number plate bracket, and I've got a YouTube video specifically on these. And what they do is they raise your display up. It kind of sits in there like this, pulls the wire packet down, and that lets you put a number plate in, but allows you to keep the display. And I'll show more of that in a minute. So with doing that, we're gonna get rid of the headlight, and we're gonna get rid of this tail light back here. And by doing that, that'll let me get rid of the brake sensor back here because these are going to be prone to fail. I've already had like one fail on a customer because they pack with mud in there. And then on the top here, I'm going to get rid of this banjo bolt as well. And that whole left-hand block will be gone. So handlebars is going to be cleaned way up. I am going to throw a set of the Beta flags on there. I do want to show you guys though the valve adjustment. I am going to check the valves. So I'm going to pull the gas tank off and I'm going to look at all the wiring. I'll show you how all that looks. Here's just some of the stuff on the counter. We got the oil change stuff, rear rotor guard. I'm going to go to engine ice with this. I love this stuff for the fork seal grease. It is awesome. What I do is I just kind of smear some of that around the bottom of the fork, then I work the fork down into it and it just makes the seal seem to last longer. Hand guards, this is that exhaust guard, a new air filter, number plate, and this is my valve tool stuff. I did bring over a tall seat. I might throw that back on there because Dad and I are both pretty tall. So I went ahead, removed all the plastics. What's kind of cool with it being dusty is you can see, where stuff is rubbing and whatnot. But my whole spiel back here is if you guys are going to remove the tail piece, there's this 3-pin connector here, but I would rather have you guys plug it right here. So this, if you unplug here, it just removes the tail lights as well, or turn signals. And it's just that big long fender. This is your actual fender. There's like 4 bolts and it comes off. So it's easy to get off, easy to get to. And moving forward, everything looks pretty well routed. Down through here, you can see where any dust might have been rubbing on anything. There's really no rub anywhere on any of these packets. Sometimes with the IMS tanks, these wires get pinched here between the radiator and the actual tank. And you'll have like ground wire issues right there. So try to watch out for that. Now I did notice I'm going to have to tighten up his thermostat housing. Let me zoom in. And it's pretty crappy footage, I apologize. But you can see how wet this housing is right here. And that's from those 4 bolts coming loose. And that's pretty common on these Betas. The unfortunate thing is look how that's positioned. It's jammed way up in the frame like that. That thermostat housing needs to be, and all it takes is like not even half a turn on all of those, not even, just hardly anything, and those tighten right back up and that goes away. So when I'm doing the valves, you can see it's got that tamper-proof bolt there. I did bring over an original bolt, so I'll be able to get rid of that. Next time I check the valves, I won't have to worry about that one. And then as you move up top here, you can kind of see everything was routed pretty well, tucked in nice. This is pretty standard setup stuff for us, so let's check the valves next. So the first thing I did is I cleaned everything way up here. I always clean the bars really well, that way no mud or debris, dirt, anything comes down through. So I cleaned everything. I always pull like the wire, pack it out, and clean each wire individually so it looks brand new before we touch anything to open this up. So actually really, really tight. I don't know, just way too tight for my liking. So, and I have these laying down like this. So top left exhaust was a 0.10. And our clearance, and this is funny because these are the same clearances and the same process since 2012. And I'm not going to do the whole how I did it in this video because I have a video on the channel going over how to check the valves. So follow that video. It's done really well. I don't know how many views, maybe 20,000 views since the beginning. So check that video out. Anyway, so 0.1, way too tight. and the right-hand exhaust actually was within clearance, so I didn't touch that one. I left that one alone. I went 2 shim sizes on this side, and that brought it up to, both of them fit snugly nicely on that 0.15. So for example, this is that 0.15 right there. Really hard to read. Okay, can't even read it, so not in the light anyway. So that's what I did on that side, and then the intake was also not great. So the left-hand intake was at the very low end. It fit in there, but very tight. And then the right-hand intake was actually below. It was snug. I had to go under what it should have been. And so I went 2 shim sizes on both of these as well. And that puts it, it's kind of funny, the same feeler gauge, it puts it right in the middle of that one. So I probably could have gone on the exhaust. I could probably gone 1 more shim side on that side, and then like 1 here. So that would have been 1 shim adjustment and 3 shim adjustments. That would have probably bumped it closer to that 0.20, but I'm really happy with that. I think now that the bike is settled in, it's not going to move for quite a while. We probably get another like 40 hours out of it at this point with these numbers. So right before I even started shooting footage tonight, I started the bike like 2 or 3 times, fired up super easy. So I don't know, if your bike starts to start hard, you need to check the valves. But even if your bike is running good, you might want to open it up and at least inspect the valves and make sure you're within clearance. So I thought I would just share real quick what I mean by, shim sizes. And this is, just for your knowledge, this is the 10 millimeter diameter shims, because some of the Jap bikes take much smaller shim sizes. I think there's actually like 3 or 4 different sizes of shims. So what you see here is when I'm saying I went 2, let's say if the bike was like a 2.45 in that bucket there, I moved it down here to like a 2.35. And like I said, in the exhaust, I probably could have jumped 3 bins on the left-hand side and 1 bin on the right. So this thought I would show what I use and how I come up with that. Also, when checking valves, I really like having one of these. When you're trying to pick those fingers up underneath the cams, this pulls that up, and then you can put this right on top of one of the shims and pull it out without worrying about dropping it down in there. It's a nice little magnet. So here's the process to tighten those 4 screws down. So can't do it because I've only got 1 hand, but I'm going to slide the screwdriver up through here, and you can see how close it is to that housing down there. We got plenty of room there, right? I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. And all I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to rock this housing this way, and just doing that is enough. And it's got to put a little bit of a twist on that thing. It's been good. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to push it that way and then tighten down those 2. So that's how I'm going to tighten down those 4 bolts on that housing there. Got the valves all tightened back up. Everything's good to go there. And now we're moving on to some electrical stuff. So I'll start in the front. Got the hand guards on. I'm going to remove this with a banjo bolt. We're going to get rid of that sensor, so ignore that. Forgot the banjo bolt. But in the front here, we got the number plate. It's not bolted in because I wanted to show it to you guys. So here is that number plate bracket that we make. See how you get to keep your display? Kind of raises it a little bit. So if you look in through this way, display is sitting a little bit higher, but still underneath the number plate. I'm going to remove it now to kind of show you how this bracket works. So before, this chunk of wires was up too high and you couldn't get to the bolt that we needed to get to. And we provide one in the bracket. So display goes up, wires go down. We removed all the stuff on the left, so that's all gone. Headlights gone, horns gone. I just electrical tape everything real nice and zip tie it all up right in a nice little pocket there. Everything still spins nice, so that's good there. As we come back, I was able to get all this tightened up, dielectric greased, and here's a couple of the things that I like to do to my 4 strokes. And these are kind of big. So this one here usually sits right here. You can see where it pinches behind the frame there, or where it sits into it there. This holds that whole wire packet, but it pushes it out further. You can see the distance there, the thickness of the back piece there. So that forces this wire packet out right into a sharp edge on the engine mount. So what I like to do is we file this into like a round corner, or like a round edge here. See, it's all filed down nicely versus what it was before. So when I slide this back into position here with one hand, let's see, right about there. I'm going to put a still picture in here before. If you go out and look at your bike in the garage, a lot of those wires are touching that engine mount there. I would rather not have that. So I know I can't really zoom in because I've only got one hand, but right there, those wires are not touching anymore, where before they were forced out against it. So I think just longevity, that's a cool thing to do. And then moving on back, you can see right here, that 6-pin connector we were talking about earlier eliminates the tailpiece. We eliminated that. So that's pretty much it for the wiring. I got to move on to oil change and change some tires. Give you a quick update. We got the banjo bolt in up on top. We got the check valve now on the fuel line. Got some grip donuts on there. And we got the new front tire on. And I'm going to do real quick, I'll show you guys some still shots in here of how good those spacers still are. Haven't greased any of this. I pulled the spacer out on video. You can see how much grease is still in there. And same with the swing arm, right? So I just popped the swing arm down and you can see inside of there how much awesome grease is still in there. And there was so much grease packed around this bolt even and where it slides through the engine case. You can see how it's really hard to tell because this camera doesn't focus, but how good that is there. And then if you come down to the linkage here, the bolts all came out super clean. Again, this is a 1-year-old bike. And it hasn't had the easiest life. Like, look at the dirt around the seal. I like this one clean, but look in there. Look at all that grease in there. Those are perfect. Everything is still really good in there. I'm gonna like push that out, put new grease in there. I did never seize on the swing arm, the axle adjuster bolts. I always do that. So never seize inside of there. We'll get that all greased up next and get our rotor guard on the rear brake caliper. It's coming along. We're getting really close to wrapping this bike up. So what I just discovered, it's kind of funny, I was dropping the oil to do the oil change. You can see it's still dripping. But as soon as I pulled the skid plate down, you can see all this oil right there. And I was like, oh, kind of funny. The skid plate was hiding it all, so it wasn't leaking that bad. But if you look up in here, I think it's a counter shaft seal. So from the shop, I grabbed a new seal and a new O-ring. They do make an upgrade kit, and I've got a video of the upgrade kit on the channel. And while I was at the shop grabbing those pieces, I also grabbed the slave cylinder guard. So I'm going to remove this plastic one, get rid of that, so that way the mud can fling out of there. And we're just going to install this. One tech tip, if you guys are doing this at home, is please do not use an impact gun when you're removing this. I think it's a 17. Yeah, 17. So don't use an impact gun on that because you'll snap the head of the bolt off. These are Loctited in there. So really recommended that you use like a heat gun. What I just did is I just put my foot on the brake on the other side, had a long bar, and I just carefully pulled up on it, and now it's loose. So I can go ahead and get this off the rest of the way. So yeah, you can see all the gunk built up in there on that seal. I could probably just clean that one because this bike, it's only got 20 hours on it. It's not that old. So I went ahead and cleaned this all really good. This seal is actually in really good shape. There's really nothing wrong with it. I just think there was so much gunk built up around it. It kind of hurt it. Obviously, I'll just keep this one, and if it needs it, I'll put it in. One reason I wanted to bring this back up is this is a really cool tool. I filmed videos on doing the counter shaft seals alone, and I was excited to show this to you guys because all you do is you just slide this thing right in there. You grab like the upper edge of that lip, and you just literally just roll it out, and it pulls those right out. So if you guys are looking for a cool tool at home to extract those, that's what I like to use. I went ahead and I pulled the shifter off as well and pulled all the gunk and cleaned that up as well. Cleaned the whole area up, got the slave cylinder guard on there, cleaned the sprockets all up. We'll put a bunch of grease back on this. Don't forget there's a little O-ring inside of there. All of this looks good. I'm going to chance it. We'll run it a little bit, and if it makes a mess again, I'll do it. But there's only 20 hours on that seal. I just think Dad had, some of this dirt is, I don't want to say kind of clay based, but once it gets in there, it's just going to keep that seal pried open. So that's my story on the seal. All right, that's going to wrap up this week's garage build. Turned out really good. It's good to wrap up Dad's bike. It took, last night and this morning, only a couple days. I know I have the bike ready for the summer. So new tires always make everything look so good. It's pretty nice having those on there. So again, heavy duty tube with front tire, same in the back, heavy duty, new tire. Removed the rear tailpiece. You can see on the counter over there. Got rid of the headlight, the whole left-hand control. We went with a number plate. This is the older style. Of course, they got the Moto style as well. Added some of the Beta flag hand guards. I did some grip donuts for just keeping the blisters off the thumbs. But you'll see in the handlebars on this side, everything is so clean all the way across. And then we just have the start and stop switch left, which is cool. Added the check valve here because when I take the green thing out of the bottom of the cap, you got to put something else in its place, because the gas was running down the tank and it was kind of staining the outside of it. So I resolved that, which is good. We did the slave cylinder guard on this side, cleaned that whole spacer out, cleaned in behind the shifter, brand new air filter, changed the engine oil, we checked the valves, Pulled the whole swing arm and linkage apart, greased all of that stuff. I think I haven't really touched yet are these bolts. I might put something in there, maybe silicone even, because I don't really want to put the guard on there. It's just going to collect mud. So on this side, we didn't really do much. Oh, we flushed the coolant, we put engine ice in this thing. So I just think it's a great idea. And then we touched up all that wiring. So if you guys have a newer bike at home, probably be a great idea to spend a couple days before riding season and go through it like this. And I know you're gonna have a great summer with it. So right here at the end of the video, only one sales pitch. If you guys are buying your Beta parts on betausa.com, if you don't mind choosing 3C's Recreation as your dealer, it really helps us out. We get a small commission every time you guys create an account on there and pick 3C's. It doesn't cost you any more to get the parts, and the same guys that are pulling my parts orders are pulling your parts orders, come out of the same warehouse. So it's an awesome program Beta has, but at the end of the month, for us doing builds like this, and we're heading to the GNCC, you can see I got Braxton's new 200 sitting here. We're taking off Wednesday or Thursday. So we're excited, get back to filming the fun stuff. Enjoy the ride, we'll see you in the trail.